Welcome back, gamers. Justin here with you today, and we're doing developer blog number 7 today. So a couple of things, I'm just going to jump straight into it and try and keep this relatively simple, but a couple of things today that we've made progress on before I jump into the game and show you the details there. So we have set up the infrastructure. I am not going to show that to you, although I will kind of at a high level describe it. Basically, we're using Kubernetes, and it will spin up basically a container that runs our server-side code. And what that allows us to do is kind of quickly fail, quickly spin up servers, and seamlessly adjust to server load, at least in theory. So, you know, the idea being is that we can have relatively few kind of virtual machines, and then inside of each of those, we can have many servers up to the extent of what the virtual machine can support. So it gives us a couple of ways to scale. One, we can scale and have additional EC2 instances or additional virtual machines, or we can expand the capabilities of those virtual machines to support more containers inside of it, basically more server builds inside of it. So, you know, we have a couple of ways that we can expand there. Since we're using AWS also, it gives us the ability to expand globally. So anywhere AWS has a data center, we can stand up a server. So that way we can kind of geographically disperse our, our server infrastructure to where you get good gaming performance and good ping times. But ultimately, we're able to kind of expand seamlessly both inside of a region and also globally to match demand. So we're really excited about that, although I am not going to show you much detail about that. So it's one of those kind of sensitive things that, if I show too much, it will be abused. I'm sure some of you will already be digging and trying to figure it out, especially once some of the builds go out. And that's okay. But, ultimately, I don't want to give away too much with that. So with that, though, just understand that the infrastructure is in place. We're in good shape with that. It's been tested. We failed over. We scaled up. We've done all kinds of cool stuff with that so far. And so that'll be a part of our initial beta testing or closed beta testing when the time comes. So with that, let me jump into the game now. And so here we are, and I have my back here, and you see this little ribbon here, and I'll explain that here in a moment. So you also see the M16, so we've swapped this out for I think we had the R90 before, which is, I think, a fake gun. But, we've got the M16 in here now. I can shoot that, and you see these little blue ribbons. And basically what I've got is, for all of the bullets that we shoot, we've got a ribbon on that. So you can see the ribbon and actually follow the trajectory of the bullet. It looks kind of funny when I shoot it, but you can see, I've got this little block set up here with a gun shooting the bullet out here. So when that happens, you can see that, that it kind of redraws, I think it shoots a bullet like every second or so. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to step up in here, and I'm going to kind of slowly walk up in there. And you can hear that kind of the snapping of the bullet coming overhead. If I turn left, or turn right, you can hear it through the right, and so on. So, it should be fully 3D sound and supported for you, so you're able to identify where those cracks are coming from. That's for a near miss. We also have stuff in there if it actually hits, or if it, does damage, or maybe it ricochets near you and that kind of stuff. So there's sounds for all of that in place now. So the next thing that you're kind of looking at here is one of the additions. So we've added this parking garage, and here's the housing. And what we've done is we've moved that from this block back a block, and we're going to add some smaller commercial stuff here. So you'll have a much wider diversity of kind of buildings and businesses and that kind of stuff. And then we'll get back in here and have a couple of blocks of residential. So we have this kind of big parking structure. You can work your way all the way to the top of that. I'm not going to show too much of that today because we still have a ton of kind of little fine detail work to do to it. But you get the idea of what we're going for there. What I do want to show, though, is the bullet trajectories, the bullet ricochets, those types of things, and kind of walk through some of that and explain that out. So I am going to just kind of fire off a few shells here, and hopefully I hit the right thing. And I want you to focus on the ribbon that goes up there. So you can see there, that ribbon kind of bounced around and ricocheted several times. And basically we're using the rigid body physics system inside of Unity to use this. So when we go through this, we basically have to set a couple of variables. We set some impulse thrust on it initially, just based on the weapon, the bullet, and that kind of stuff. And then we have a bunch of physics materials on a lot of this stuff to kind of tell us how the bullet should interact. So, if you hit like a wood physics material, it's going to behave differently than if you hit a metal or a stone or something to that effect. So, basically that's the goal there, and I'll fire a couple of shots off here so you can see the ricocheting of that. And you'll hear it kind of ricochet here as it does. You'll hear the snap. We still have a few things. That should actually be a ricochet sound there. Basically I need to reload. I'm gonna be quiet there. We do have the reload sounds on that now. Basically that's the gist of this, so we are comfortable with this. If I shoot out here in the distance, we'll kind of, you can't see it from here, but we put this in there to kind of track the trajectory and the arc. And we apply some adjustments over time to make sure that falls off in a predictable manner. So, again, it's all stuff that we can fine tune through the settings. And that kind of leads into the last thing here for today. So initially we were doing abstract classes, and this is a little tech heavy, I guess, for some of you, but ultimately the abstract class, what the concept is that you create kind of a base class where it has all of the base kind of core elements that you need. So if I have a gun, for example, I know that I can fire that gun, I can reload, I can single fire reload. I can full auto fire, I can semi-auto fire, I can burst mode fire. There's all of those kind of core components that a gun has, right? And so you build all of that into the abstract class, and then anytime you have a gun, it just inherits from that. What we've actually done, we've stayed along those similar lines, but now instead of using abstract classes, we've actually used scriptable objects, which is built into Unity, which is a far, far better solution for us. So, a scriptable object is basically the exact same thing as an abstract class, except it's built in and allows us to create guns incredibly quickly and create bullets and all of those things. Basically what we're looking at here, this gun is a scriptable object. The bullet that it fires is a scriptable object, and each of those scriptable objects all have their own kind of behaviors built into them. So same kind of concept, except now we're using the Unity recommended way of doing this rather than creating abstract classes. We're creating scriptable objects, which gives us just a whole lot of flexibility when it comes to the Unity engine. That's kind of the next thing, or the last thing that I wanted to kind of leave you with here, and you can see some of these kind of firing off here. And actually, if I run up in here a little bit, you can see full auto there for you. Let's reload again. But you can see kind of how some of this stuff behaves, how it how it reacts, and I think we'll do a little bit of fine tuning with some of this. Basically the overall system is there, and we have a lot of variability and stuff built into it to where we can adjust that on the fly without having to write new code for it. So, and it gives us a lot of flexibility too when it comes time to kind of customize your guns, because we want to take into account things like barrel length, muzzle velocity, those types of things when calculating the speed and arc and trajectory of a bullet. So, there are a lot of things that we kind of went out of our way to kind of over-architect now, because it'll set us up in a good spot later on for the game. Instead of having to add stuff, we can just go back and kind of tweak and modify and adjust certain variables, as compared to having to write new code to be able to deal with it. So that's kind of where we're at, though. You can see the progress of this, and I think that's probably all I have to show today. On Monday, we'll do a sprint planning video. And we'll talk about what we're going to work on in the next 2 weeks, so the next 2-week iteration for this. But, given that it's a holiday period for most of us, work did slow a little bit. A lot of us had family time and that kind of stuff. So, it's not as much as I would have liked to have shown, but it's enough that we're happy with it. So, there's your developer log number 7. So with that said, though, if you haven't headed over to Steam, please do so. Head over to the Steam page. The link's down in the description. And be sure to wishlist it. It really helps with the Steam algorithm and whatnot. If you're able to, head over to Patreon. Feel free to support us there. You can do a one-time donation. You can do a monthly donation through Patreon, which is fantastic if you want to go that route. Join us on Discord. Hit us up on Twitter. And, hit some merch. If nothing else, pick up some merch with our pretty kick-ass logo on it. So... otherwise, though, it's been great talking to you today. Have a great week, and I will see you on Monday for some sprint planning.